Imagine a time when there was nothing. No humans. No countries. No wars. Just silence and a barren rock floating in the cold darkness of space. Then suddenly, boom. The earth roared with fire, oceans formed, and tiny microscopic life began to crawl, swim, and fight for survival. From these fragile beginnings would rise civilizations, kings, empires, religions, and wars that shaped the very world you live in today. But here's the chilling truth. Every great power, every mighty empire, every glorious civilization eventually crumbled into dust. This is the story of our world. A story of survival, bloodshed, and endless cycles of rise and fall. Welcome to the history of the entire world. The dawn of life. Billions of years ago, Earth was just a ball of rock and fire. Then came water, lightning, and the first spark of life. At first, they were nothing more than single-celled organisms. But evolution had already begun its unstoppable march. Life multiplied, adapted, and grew more complex. Tiny creatures swam in oceans. Plants spread across land, and then the first animals appeared. Then came the dinosaurs. Gigantic, terrifying rulers of the earth, they dominated for millions of years. Until one day, a catastrophic asteroid slammed into Earth. The age of dinosaurs ended in fire and ash. But from the ruins, small mammals survived. And among them, the seeds of humanity began to grow. Act 2. The rise of humans. Fast forward to just a few million years ago. Early humans walked the earth at first. They were hunters and gatherers, fighting nature to survive. Fire was discovered. Tools were shaped. Language was born. Then came farming. Humanity no longer wandered endlessly. They settled, planted crops, and built permanent homes. Villages turned into towns. Towns became cities. And cities became civilizations. Mesopotamia, the so-called cradle of civilization, gave birth to writing, laws, and kings. Soon after, Egypt rose with its pyramids, gods, and mighty pharaohs. China and India flourished with ancient wisdom, philosophy, and trade. Meanwhile, across the Mediterranean, Greece and Rome forged new empires, writing their names into the pages of eternity. Act 3. Empires of blood and glory. But history was never peaceful. It was written with blood. Great empires rose only to be torn apart by war. Alexander the Great marched across continents, carving out an empire in his 20s only to see it collapse after his death. Rome became the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. Roads, laws, armies, and emperors who declared themselves gods. Yet Rome too fell, crushed by corruption, invasion, and time itself. In the East, new powers emerged, China's dynasties, building walls, palaces, and inventions centuries ahead of their time. In the Middle East, the Islamic Golden Age flourished, bringing knowledge, science, and culture that would change the world. But behind every age of light was an age of darkness. Crusades, plagues, and endless wars stained the earth with suffering. Act 4. Exploration and conquest. The 15th and 16th centuries brought a new kind of hunger. Exploration. European ships sailed into unknown oceans. Columbus reached the Americas. Vasco da Gama opened trade to India. Magellan circled the globe, but with exploration came conquest. Entire civilizations, like the Aztecs and Incas, were destroyed by guns, steel, and disease. The world was now connected. But it was also scarred. Slavery, colonization, and greed fueled centuries of suffering. Yet it was also an age of discovery. Art, science, and philosophy flourished during the Renaissance. Printing presses spread knowledge faster than ever before. The seeds of the modern world had been planted. Act 5, the Age of Revolutions. The 18th and 19th centuries erupted in revolutions. The American Revolution declared liberty from kings. The French Revolution cried out for equality, though it ended in blood and guillotines. The Industrial Revolution transformed life itself. Steam engines, factories, electricity, and railroads made humanity faster, stronger, and more dangerous. But progress came at a cost: child labor, pollution, and empires built on exploitation. And soon, the world was heading toward its darkest chapters. Act 6. The world at war. The 20th century was the bloodiest in history. World War I, millions dead in trenches, nations torn apart, empires collapsed. World War II, even worse. Hitler's rise, the Holocaust, atomic bombs, and the near destruction of humanity itself. By 1945, the world had changed forever. Old empires were gone. America and the Soviet Union stood as superpowers, locked in a Cold War that threatened nuclear annihilation. Act 7, the modern age, but history did not stop at war. Technology advanced faster than ever: television, computers, the internet, and artificial intelligence. Humanity stepped on the moon. Nations united under the United Nations, trying to prevent another global war. Yet the old struggles remain: power, greed, religion, and survival. Wars still rage, empires still fall, and the cycle of history continues. Act 8. The future of history. So here's the haunting question. If every empire in history has fallen, what about us? Will our technology save us or destroy us? Will humanity conquer the stars or vanish like the civilizations before us? The story of history is not finished. In fact, it is being written right now, and maybe, just maybe, one day we too will become nothing more than a chapter in the book of time. Closing narration. This was the history of the entire world. Not as a comedy, but as a reminder. Every rise has its fall. Every empire has its end. And in the grand story of time, we are only a fleeting shadow. Remember this. History does not just tell us where we came from, it warns us where we may be going.